Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, I'm Emmelinda, and I am happy, joyous, and free. And I am so grateful. I just came from hearing the Al-Anon speaker, and boy, you know, I see part of my story and her story, and I just feel so grateful. I want to thank Deborah. She's been the hostess for me this weekend, and she met me at the lobby, and she walked my husband and I to the room, and she took me out to lunch because the restaurant was closed, and I was looking for white sandals, and she took me to DSW and Marshall's, and but today she did the creme de la creme. As my husband was zippering my zipper, the zipper broke. Deborah, SOS! My zipper! And I know she told me that she does like cross point or needle point, right? And so she has her little basket, and she came and tried to do all that stuff, and I was forcing a solution. I wanted this dress because everything was matchy-matchy. I had the earrings and the bracelet and the shoes, and you know, she said, keep it simple, you have another outfit. No, that's my tomorrow outfit. So, if I get a little warm, I can't take off the sweater because the sweater has safety pins all the way down, and she sewed me into the dress. But she said not to worry about it. All I have to do is look cute from the waist up. So, I'm okay. I'll have 17 years in Al-Anon in July, and I came here into these rooms because my husband's drinking bothered me, but I belonged here way long time ago. I have 5 generations of alcoholism in my family, and my great-grandmother, she was a drunk, and one time she got so drunk and she had sex with her stepson. Yeah, and she ended up having a baby. And that baby was my grandfather's brother and nephew. So 2 relatives for the price of 1 when you have a drinking problem. And that's how I knew, wow, 5 generations. But no one identified themselves as alcoholics. I come from a large extended Puerto Rican family in New York City, and my idea of alcoholics were the people in the Bowery and the Skid Row, and they're holding up a paper bag, lady, give me $1. You know, that was my idea of an alcoholic, not these people that drank a little too much at parties, and that's it. That was my idea. I did not grow up with everyday drinking. I was not sexually abused. I was not emotionally abused. I was nurtured and taken care of, but somehow I did not feel like I was right. I always compared myself to others. I always felt less than, even though I was a hero from my family. Growing up in New York City, we all lived in the same building. My grandparents, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, everyone, we had the whole entire building. And in a large Puerto Rican family, everybody thinks that they're your mother, you know. The aunt has an opinion, the uncle has an opinion, you get scolded by everyone. And I thought we were just close. I just found out we're a mesh. And that's not really healthy. Everybody knows your business, everyone feels like they can say something. And when we were about 6 years old, my mom and dad moved from that apartment and we moved uptown. And we became like a nuclear family, just mom and dad and kids. And I liked that. I didn't like that whole idea of the extended family. I wanted what I saw on TV, like a mother and father and kids, not all this posse, you know, in your business. And a short while later, my mom and dad got divorced. Now, my mom, she's my first person that I had a resentment towards. I was 8 years old when I had my first resentment. And it's because I blamed her for divorcing my hero dad. And my mom was a teen mom. She got married when she was 16. My dad was 20. What do they know? But at that age, I didn't understand that. And I wanted her to be like, you know, a Betty Crocker mom. I wanted her to have a hair in a bun and wear an apron and make brownies. And my mom, she wore her hair in an afro and a bandana and bell bottoms, and she made brownies, but with marijuana in them. So my parents got divorced because my mom hooked up with the neighborhood butcher. And so my dad moved out of that apartment. Oh, I'm the oldest of four. I'm the oldest of four. I have 3 siblings, and that means I'm bossy and controlling, and I tell everybody what to do, and I love every minute of it. So that qualifies me for here. So when my parents got divorced, my dad moved out, and my mom moved in with the butcher. And that didn't work out, and my mom and the butcher moved out, and my dad and his new girlfriend moved in. Now, at least there was some stability, right? The kids stayed in the same apartment. Just the adults kind of moved in and out. And that was the beginning of like chaos for me. We went to live with our grandparents because both of those boyfriends and girlfriends were dysfunctional. So my grandparents raised me, and I now know that my grandmother is an untreated Al-Anon, and we call that house the Maldonado Hotel because she helped everyone. Anyone that was coming from Puerto Rico were going to land in New York, you know, they're going to stay at our house. Someone from church was displaced, they're going to stay at our house. And we give up our bedrooms, and there was always, you know, another plate for someone else. And she was a big helper. And for me, because it was chaotic and it wasn't just my mom and my dad and my kids, that's when I started my organizational skills to try to control the situation that was uncontrollable. So I wanted my headband to match my bracelet, that matched my earrings, that matched my necklace, that matched the shoes and the belts, and everything had to be matchy-matchy, and then I felt all good all under. Like everything was in control. I organized my drawers, I organized the closets, I was a perfectionist at school, I rewrote my papers just to get a semblance of control, the illusion of control. So I started that at age 8. I excelled in school, I was a type A person, honors, I was in track, on cross country, I was vice president, you know, just everything to keep busy. I didn't realize until I did my 4th and 5th step that was a way for me to cope. If I keep really busy, I won't acknowledge that my parents got divorced and I miss my dad. And so that kept me busy. I went to college, I was the first one in my family to go to college. I was the goody two-shoes, and my mom called me the goody two-shoes because she was like really cool, and I didn't like that. All my friends thought she was cool because she was young, and I didn't want that kind of mom. I wanted, you know, the ladies with the beehive up in their heads. So in college, I was the mom of college. I was the resident assistant. They got me a cup that said mom, and I had the keys to everyone's room, and I fit right in. It was just like, you know, like you said, the project manager. It's just like direct and tell these people what to do. It's like, yeah, I want that job. And I did well in school. Everyone was proud of me at my home, and my profession was helping others. So to my family's surprise, I wanted to marry the local drug dealer. And the Tony Montana of the neighborhood, because I was gonna help him. Poor guy, he had a poor background, and his dad left him, and I was gonna help him. So who cares that the police were looking for him for an attempted murder charge, That's a minor thing. So I planned the perfect wedding. Color-coded, of course, red and white. Red roses, white roses, red flowing dresses, chicken cordon bleu, open bar, music band. It was like perfect, just like I wanted it. My family, my friends, my college professor was there. Everything was fine. There was just one little hitch to the giddy-up. Right when I was ready to walk down the aisle, the police come and arrest him. Now, I didn't have Al-Anon at this time. I didn't know. I was like, this is not gonna work for me. I'm out of here, Oh no, I was in the throes of my disease. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, wait a minute. The band is here, my family's here, my friends are here. What the hell? Let's go out with the party. And so in the state of New York, you could get married by proxy. So my dad walked me down the aisle and I married my brother-in-law. Now the minister, he said at the end, because he was like, holy crap, my mom is crying, she's getting drunk, my grandmother is like praying. I'm like, hey, the party's got to go on. Now that's the epitome of denial, the disease of perception, right? Forcing a solution. I mean, I belonged in Al-Anon. And the minister said, if you don't mail this form in, you really won't be married. Are you kidding me? Stand by your man. I have to, go on with this. So he got out on bail, and we jumped mail, and we went on the lam for 2 years. 2 years, we lived in Hawaii, we lived in Puerto Rico. I had twin boys, and they were 4 months old when the FBI surrounded our house and arrested him and extradited him to New York. I wasn't in Al-Anon then. I didn't say, oh, wait a minute, I have choices here. I think I will leave this relationship because, his sentencing was 20 years to life. And like a good wife, I stayed committed in that relationship for 4 years. I took a trip to New York every 3 or 4 weeks. We had a nightclub I was running. Well, but then it was me. I had a nonprofit organization that I was running, and I had twin 4-month-old boys. And what I did was get busy. I was busy during the day, I was busy during the night, because I was not gonna feel anything. And, after that wedding, he was on the front page news of the New York Post. And so, everybody knew. And then he was on the front page news of the San Juan Star in Puerto Rico too. It was kind of famous. And so I stayed in that marriage because I thought that, what will my mother-in-law think? And I have to do the right thing, and I don't want to get divorced, and it's kind of like separated, and we see each other. And so I did that for 4 years because I did not have the courage to end the relationship. I learned courage in these rooms. And I maintained the illusion that everything was fine. But every night at 8 o'clock when I'd go to bed and put the kids to bed, I felt that loneliness, like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I was cum laude. I did all these things. How did I get here? And then the next day would come and I'd get busy again. I just ignored that. And so rather having the courage to end that relationship, there was a family friend that would visit the home, and so I had what's called an overlapping relationship. I found that out last week at AFG. It wasn't an extramarital affair, it was an overlapping relationship. And technically, my husband and I was separated, right? Like he was in prison in New York and I was in Puerto Rico. That's kind of separated. So I justified and rationalized that. And my first husband, you know, the drug dealer, Puerto Rican, he smelled good. We'd go in the car, he was charming. You know, he'd go like this to the beat. I like that, you know, that bad boy kind of stuff. Now this overlapping relationship guy, not only did he do this and smell good, but he was a great salsa dancer. Oh man, that like took him over to another level. So he drank a little socially and he was social, and my sister warned me about him, and he was married but he was separated, so he was doing the overlapping relationship too. And that's how I got the courage to say, I can't keep doing the whole prison thing and I need to get a divorce. So he was married, I was married, and we both got divorced in April. I think his was final April 7th, mine was April 4th, and we got married April 29th. And the reason we got married, it was a shotgun wedding, and I had the shotgun. Because from Puerto Rico, he was a military guy, and he moved to North Carolina, and we had been calling back and forth, and I was visiting him, and I said, listen, this is not going to work for me. I'm not going to be doing these trips and stuff like that. So look at these wedding magazines, and what color cummerbund you like, the pink or the peach? He's like, who? So he always says it was a shotgun wedding, and I was the one that said that we were going to get married, and let the games begin. This is the alcoholic that got me to these rooms. And I didn't quite know that he was an alcoholic because he was a periodic drinker. And when he would drink, he wouldn't stop drinking, but that didn't happen very often. And his drinking didn't bother me. What bothered me was the dishonesty and not being emotionally available and being a workaholic and being more attached to my daughter than to me, because he couldn't do the intimacy thing, the adult thing. And my obsession is fixing and helping. So I was going to guide him into making him a mature man. I thought maybe, you know, he's Latino and a little machista, and maybe he's a little immature, so, you know, I'll get a couple of books and I'll take him to therapy, and we went to those marital retreats, and nothing. It was just, I quite could not put my finger on it, on what it was. And I did an internship in the Department of Mental Health, and they had this flyer that said, do you have fights over finances? Do you have all these like 20 questions? And I'm like, oh my God, I come home with that piece of paper and I told my husband, this is it! You're an alcoholic! This is our problem! So we have been going to therapy back and forth, and it was through the therapist that said to go to Al-Anon. And that was a little light bulb moment for me. Now, in my quest of trying to make him what I wanted him to be, because I have pictures in my head of how things should be, and that's my expectations. And so my expectations were that we all would be in the dinner table, and the twins, and Melanie, and he and I, and we'd hold hands, and we'd rock together and sing Kumbaya. But that wasn't how it was in our family. You know, he was out, or he was mad, or he was irritable, and I told the kids, you know, don't get your dad mad, like walking on eggshells. And because I couldn't control him, I tried to control the house and the household. And what I did was color code everything. And so I have 3 children, and Melanie's designated color is pink, and Jacob's is blue, and Rolando's is green. And so he had green towels, and green toothbrushes, and green cups, and green plates, and green pillows, and green blankets, and everything was their color. So if I knew anything was out, a pillow was out, Jacob, come get your pillow, you know? We had those frozen cups in the freezer, you know, those big mug things, pink, green, and blue. We'd go shopping and the kids would just gravitate to their colors. They just knew what their colors were. Their bicycles, I took those electrical tape and I went to the garage and I made parking spots. Your bikes go here, here, and they have to go inside the parking spots. I had cubbies, the blue cubbies, that was the Legos. The yellow cubbies, that's the Ninja Turtle. The other cubbies are the blocks. That block better not be in that cubby. And they could only play in their rooms. They couldn't come out in the living room. And I remember when I first started sharing, and my ex-husband said, you know, tell them how when you used to come home from work and they would all hear the garage door open and they all like ran, like, oh my God, she's here. And he said, tell them that I used to run too. And it's like I'd go in at home and it's like 3, 5, 4, 5, you know, what's out of place? Barbies don't belong here. This, you know, just such a drill sergeant. And I did not even drink. I did all this sober. My kids thought he was great and wonderful, and I was the crazy one. So that's how I try to control my home. At my job, I color-coded everything. I was the mentor for everyone. I wanted to fix and revamp systems. I just had a knack for that. And I now know that that's called controlling. I just thought that that was excellent problem-solving skills, and I was a leader. And that is my main thing. My main disease is just obsession with others and trying to help and fix. And then you were going to thank me for it. But really, all I got was resentment from all these people that didn't want any of my help. So I'm in Al-Anon for 4 or 5 years. He went to an outpatient program, and he went to a couple of AA meetings, but it just wasn't for him. I don't think that, you know, I know in the big book it says that some people are not constitutionally honest enough. And I thought, you know, he's willing, he goes to counseling, and I finally got it, that he just was not capable. And that was just so sad for me, because I loved that guy, and my kids loved him. And when we got divorced, they're like, why are you getting divorced? Like, we never fought, and we danced out in the living room, and we kissed and we hugged, and, you know, there was nothing tangible that they could see why we were getting divorced. But I wanted an adult relationship.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And I had learned in Al-Anon that I deserved that. And I was not getting my needs met. And with a lot of pain in my heart, you know, Al-Anon did not save my marriage. Even though I tried. I did a couple of bad things in that marriage, which I did make amends. And some of them were, I looked for him one time, and he was out in Palm Springs drinking, and I saw where he was at, so I took his car and I moved it to another location so that when he came out, he'd know that maybe someone took it or whatever, you know, just stuff like that. And then I just knew that I was going to catch him in a lie, and I went to Radio Shack and I bought this device and I put it underneath the bed and a tape, and then you could record every time he gets on the phone. So I drive home from work at noon, get that tape out, put the new tape in, and hear it on the way back to work. I never busted him, but I did bust my junior high school son making a marijuana deal on the phone. When my husband would come home at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, smelling of alcohol, man, I turned into one of those raging maniacs. And we had like a 4-poster bed, and I took one of those poster thingies, and it became a bat. Home run. I mean, that's domestic violence. I could have got in trouble. Meanwhile, he's a cop. 6 feet, you know. What's he gonna say? You know, my wife, she hit me with the... Another time, I was so mad at him because he was gonna go out, and I didn't want him to go out, and I was just so mad, and right by the laundry room, I just punched him and loosened his tooth. And my son just came out of the bedroom and saw when he went like this, and he tells my son, "You never ever hit a woman, no matter what." Oh my gosh, I mean, I was just so out of control because I could not get him to be the picture that I had in my head. You know, you stay home, you become a family, you don't do all these dysfunctional things. And so I was really frustrated, and I got a divorce, and in that divorce, I ended up losing my daughter. My daughter was just so connected to him, and she was 12, and she was just mad that I took her daddy away, and we ended up having an ugly custody battle. And you know what? Alcoholism won. I worked for family law. I knew all the ins and outs of child custody. I do child custody. And alcoholism won. I could not beat that. He allowed her to drive without a license. He allowed her to miss school. He allowed her to go on concerts. You know, just a yes daddy kind of guy. And I learned in the rooms to say what I mean what I say, and don't say it mean. And I learned to set those boundaries, and I learned about tough love. And I was like, okay, you want to be with your dad, and your dad is, you know, he'd be like, if you're going to take away her cell phone that I purchased, then I'm going to file a police report that you took property, you know, like crazy stuff. I couldn't even give her a timeout or any limit. My hands were always tied with that. And so she left the home. She didn't talk to me for a couple years. And now we're talking, you know, 17, 18. And he divorced my twin sons that he raised since they were 3 years old. So he only, in the beginning, would pick up Melanie and not the boys. So they felt a loss too, like, why us? And, you know, it was a sad situation, and I felt shame when people say, oh, you know, so how's Melanie? You know, they're gonna say, well, see, she doesn't talk to me because, you know, Dad's an alcoholic, and I'm a crazy Al-Anon, and I had to accept that situation. I remember getting on my knees in the bathroom and saying, okay, God, I turn her over to you. You take care of her. Because I was powerless. That was when I remember I was powerless. And she uninvited me to her graduation. And we were kind of talking a little bit then, and she was mad because I had set a limit. And she uninvited me to a high school graduation. And you know, I'm rough and tough from New York City. You're not going to tell me that I'm not going to go to your graduation. So my sister happened to be a big hot-wig politician then, and she got me a front seat to that high school place. So I just marched right there with that little attitude, and they're all getting in line, and I tap one of her friends and let her know I'm here, and they tap her, and I'm sitting in the front row, and when they went, you know, hey, Melanie! Today, she's one of my greatest friends, and we talk every day, and she says, I'll always regret that, Mom, that I uninvited you to the graduation, and we don't have any graduation pictures from high school. And I remember after she walked down, and I went to the parking lot, and I was so sad, but I thought, you know, Al-Anon says, keep your side of the street clean. I didn't have to say to her, okay, fine, I'm not going. I recognized she was young, immature, and I went and did that.
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
Child custody. Now, that ex-husband, he took us out to dinner a couple of years ago, all the kids, and he made amends to us. And he said that he is so sorry that he behaved that way. He said, your mom always gave me an opportunity. Your mom was always giving me a warning and asked me to get my act together, and I just couldn't. And I was just so angry that I couldn't believe it, that she actually would divorce me. And I was immature and took it out on you guys. And he apologized. And then my sons began having a relationship with him. My daughter just graduated FSU, and he and I both went to parent weekend together. Here we are divorced, and we're getting along, and he made amends again. I'm so sorry I turned her against you, and I was just immature and angry, and she knew that she couldn't get away with stuff with you, and I was just constantly there for her. This program also helped me recognize my mom and love her for who she was. She was not the mother that I had in my picture, in my head, but she was the perfect mom for me. And my Al-Anon friend helped me with that. My mom passed away 4 years ago. She had cardiomyopathy and diabetes and a whole bunch of things, and we knew that she was going. And I would tell my Al-Anon friend, you know, gosh, I feel so uncomfortable. I mean, I go and I visit her, she has dialysis, and I wish that she would kind of like, and then hug me, and she said, do to her what you want her to do to you. Go sit next to her and rub her shoulder. At the beginning it was so uncomfortable, right? It's like, and then eventually became more comfortable. And during one of the hospital visits, she held my hand and she says, I'm sorry for being a bad mom. Oh man, I was waiting my whole life for that, for those words, you know, because she always acted like, who cares, you know, so what? And like she acknowledged, you know, I was a partier, I wasn't available, I'm sorry. And that was about 3 or 4 years before she died, and I was able to go to all of her hospital visits and rub her back and cuddle in bed with her and accept her for who she was because of the encouragement that my Al-Anon friend had given me. So it repaired my relationship with her, and she was a great grandmother to all of the grandkids and to my kids. And I know that she was making amends there. And I have a 2-year-old grandbaby, and I hear myself singing to her and doing all these things, and it just reminds me of my mom all the time. And at her funeral, while they were sharing about her and talking about her, it's like, oh my gosh, that sounds like me. I was never able to see how the characteristics that we had that were similar, because I was not looking for the similarities. You know, like they say here, look for the similarities, not the differences. And I was able to accept her, and I love that Al-Anon gave me that gift. So I got divorced, I'm working, I'm not, the alcoholic is out of the house. Do you think I'm sane? Oh heck no, I have co-workers, I have neighbors, I have family, I'm handing out Courage to Change books, and taking everybody's inventory. When I first got to Al-Anon, the first time I went, when the therapist told me to go, I went, I listened, I bought 2 books, and I didn't come back for a year. Because I figured, hey, I have a master's degree, I can read all this stuff, highlight the stuff, and 12 steps, 1 step a month, I'm good. And so, some of us are sicker than others, and so it took me a year, and I came back, and they said get a sponsor, and read the literature, and come to meetings, And so I signed up for the literature person because then I could carry that bucket home and I didn't have to pay for any of the books because I'm an opportunist. I'm going to read all those books and not pay for anything. They said get a sponsor. So my girlfriend that was in the room, you have a sponsor? Yeah, can I have her number? I'm going to ask her to sponsor me. So I called this woman that I didn't even know. I wasn't in the rooms long enough that they say, you know, listen to people's stories, see if they could, you have a good fit. Oh no, I called this girl sponsor and she became my sponsor. And she was the perfect sponsor for me. You know, a round, kind of chubby lady that smells so good, and she would hug me and I could cry. It's like a nice grandmotherly type. And, but the first 5 years or 6 years of Al-Anon, I just go in and he said this, and he said that, and he did this, and he. I had the he's. And it took me like 6 or 7 years before I could say, you know, use I statements. And nobody said that I couldn't come back. You know, I feel this. My journals in the beginning was like, he did this, and he made me this. And now it's like I couldn't feel a feeling if it hit me in the face because everything was doing. I was a human doing and not a human being because I avoided feelings because then I'd have to deal with them. And I was really busy fixing all of you guys because, you know, everybody's messed up except not me. I thought I was perfect. So I got involved in service. I was in the skits. It really helped me through my divorce because besides going to meetings, I'm doing service, and it was in between. You'd hear all these little nuggets. And I tell you, I think when I went through the divorce, I had like a bubble of Al-Anon around me, protecting me every day, and that's how I survived. I had a younger sister that died abruptly, and she died the same week that one of my twin sons, he was 25, and he calls me, he goes, Mom, I'm hearing voices in the lecture hall, and I know there's no one there in the front whistling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And he comes home, and he's talking to my younger sister, who has bipolar disorder, and she's telling him, you're gonna be okay. I'll go visit you in school, and you know, I'll support you. They'll give you medication. They hug, they kiss. He stays at her home, and the next day, he finds her in the bathroom dead. So not only does he have this trauma, but then he finds his favorite aunt dead. And Al-Anon was there for me. They all came and brought a meeting to my house. They did the whole memorial thing. And I remember all my family was in my home, and all this extended family, they're saying, who are all these white people? Oh, that's Emma Linda's Al-Anon family. And yeah, they carried me through that. And, you know, things happen. My mom died, my sister died, my son gets a diagnosis, child custody battles, no issues with mom, you know, the issues with mom. Life happens. But you know what? Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I did not suffer through any of that because I had my bubble of support. I had my sponsor, my meetings, my literature, and I found God. You know, first I thought I was God. I was self-sufficient, reliant. You know, I don't need God. You know that joke? You know the difference between me and God? He never thinks he's me. And so Al-Anon has helped me through all of these family crises. And I have a brother who's a heroin addict, in and out of the programs, and I took him to meetings, took him to conferences, and now I've detached. I hate the disease, I love the brother, but I don't give him my car keys, I don't give him my house keys, I don't, you know, I don't do those silly things. I see the reality. And before, I couldn't see the reality. And Al-Anon helped me to see that. This is how it is, and I may not like it, and I may not approve of it, but it is what it is. And today, my life is really good. And I was really afraid of picking another good-smelling salsa bad guy. So I'm like, oh, hell no. I know my picker is off. So I got on eHarmony, and they picked for me. And we'll be married 9 years in May. Now this poor guy, I'm making amends every day to him, for him. On our first date, I took like the printout and I highlighted all of these things. I said, I've looked into your background. I see that you're in the city council. You've been on this program. And he's like, holy smoke, this is like an investigator. And I made him go through lots of hoops because, you know, I like changing and improving things. So I said, those glasses are not going to work for me. You know, those big old kind of, you'll need to get contact lenses. It's like, all right. I don't really like all those spaces in your teeth. You'll need to get braces. Okay. Now this is a little personal, but I was like, I don't want to have any more children or do birth control. You're going to have to get a vasectomy. All right. Can you believe it? You know what I asked him today? I said, why did you agree to all those things? He goes, they were good ideas. You know, like, he's a normie, and he's like so laid back. Like, your husband, I can't believe it. Like, how do you put up with that? It's like, I want to see your financial statement. I want to see your portfolio. I want to see your paycheck. I mean, I was not going to make this other mistake. I know eHarmony picked me in the computer, but I still got to do my little detective work. I took him to engagement encounter for the weekend, and we were the oldest people in the group. You know, engagements. It's young people. They're like, oh no, I got to make sure. I made him read the Dr. Phil relationship book, answer all the questions, and like that guy is a gem. We were dating for like a year, and we were coming from Pismo Beach, and I was just like, I just was yelling, and I'm like, I can't understand this. You don't even yell or curse or get mad and he has a deep, like Barry White voice. Gee, baby, this is how I come. And I had to get used to that. I was not used to that. He said he'd pick me up at 6 and he'd come at 6. You know, that was odd. And I liked chaos. I knew how to do chaos. I knew how to do fixing. And he's just like, you know, let it go. Really? Let it go? So I have a hard time staying in my square. And my square is getting smaller, but I have to work really hard at doing that. And the gifts of this program is that I now have God. It's not he. It's me and G, because G is for God, right? Me and G. I try to stay in my square, but it's very difficult to stay in my square because I have, you know, a radar, a fixometer. And I'm like, you know, what can I fix? And so I try to go to work with blinders like that. At work, I wear headphones because if someone says, hey, how do you spell? You spell that L-O? It's like, Emelinda, shut up. So in order not to hear any of these things, I have some nice Bose speakers. I had a spiritual awakening in December, and I fired myself. I fired myself from being the legal aid and the therapist and the matchmaker and the friend finder and the couples. I just had to fire myself to try to focus on me. And it was uncomfortable because I'm used to being busy and not minding my business. And I want to make things all nice and better. And I was sponsoring 9 girls. I was on a couple of committees. I was busy. And what happened was I got a grandbaby. And how am I going to make space for her? So my sponsor said, you know, you got to give up something. And I wanted to be a big part of her life. And, you know, no color coding for her. I made a playroom in my house for her. And my kids are like, she got the playroom? She could play in the room, and the bins, anything could go in the bins. I made a blackboard, she could color there. My daughter goes, I had to color in the garage because you didn't want the paint anywhere on the floor. I said, I know, I'm making amends to my grandbaby. You know, I'm changing. And I have to tell myself, every morning I get up, I get on my knees, I do the 3rd-step prayer, God, your will. I say the serenity prayer because it's right there in the bathroom. I go to work and I put that tape. You know, Courage to Change comes in a CD, and it's that man. For you single people, it's that man. Hello, it's April 4th. Courage to Change. You know, and that was pretty nice. When I was divorced, I could hear that guy every night and every day. And it has a little search thing. You could put acceptance, and then everything comes up acceptance. So it's really great. And so I journal, I do my little Courage to Change, I listen to Al-Anon podcasts while I'm driving to work. I need all this stuff because I'm really sick, right? And then there's Al-Anon online meetings. So I do that instead of Facebook. And there's Al-Anon podcasts. So there is no excuse for getting the message. And I tell myself when I get to work, I say, hocus pocus, where's your focus? It's like, me, not my coworker, not my, you know, and it takes, you know, oh, there it is, my 45 minutes. It takes work to do this, but really this is a simple program for complicated people, and I am complicated, and I am obsessive, but the solution I found in these rooms. And I have fabulous relationships. I now know in my 5th step, I saw that I'm loyal to a fault. Hello, prison 4 years, I'm still going. I'm loyal to a fault. I accept unacceptable behavior. I'm a people pleaser, but I found out I'm a people, so I'm gonna start pleasing me. And the themes there that I discovered in the 5th step, I learned to make some changes there. I could be loyal, but not to a fault now. I had to get rid of toxic friendships. I had a girlfriend that I divorced her 3 times. You know, some of us take a long time. And I had to look at that relationship was not healthy for me, and started making some boundaries and courage. I started walking around with a little book, and I called it my courage book. And when I would say no to babysitting, I would write it there. I had the courage to say no to babysitting, and the courage to set a boundary, and the courage to change my mind and call them back. You know what, that's not gonna work for me after all. And as I did that for 1 year of writing down everything that I was courageous about, it got easier and easier. And now I can say, you know, no is a complete sentence. And sometimes it's like really scary, but I'm like, I learned that in Al-Anon. I text, no. Send. So I am happy, joyous, and free. My twin sons are not talking to each other, and one just got married, and the other one did not go to his wedding. And that hurt me so much. I mean, come on, you know, I wanted to manipulate and control and solve the situation, and instead what I did was acceptance. It hurt me. And, you know, the pictures and it kind of was like, oh gosh, it's just like the graduation with Melanie. But, you know, the miracle of the program is that that girl calls me every day. We're great friends. You know, I speak to her in Alanese, and she gets it. Oh, I forgot to tell you that I bribed them, and I would pay them $10 a meeting for Alateen. And so they got some of the program. It cost me a pretty penny, but hey, they know the Serenity Prayer, they know all the slogans, and sometimes they use it back at me. And so my son that got diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, he has recovered 5 years, and he's going to graduate from college, and been compliant with his medication, got his own apartment, he had come back from college, and it was the program. the program helped me through that, and I had to turn him over. And now he's graduating, and he doesn't want to invite his brother to the graduation. Now, my old me would have been, oh, hell no, you know, you're not going to invite him, you're not going to invite me, you know, manipulation, control, guilting, all of that stuff, getting my grandmother to call him, all those things. You know, I think about them, but really quickly I said, that's not the solution. Acceptance. So I'm accepting that I'm going through menopause and I'm 2 or 3 sizes larger. That's probably why the zipper broke. I walk around with these things now, you know. And I'm like, acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. So thank you for letting me share.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our Tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.